Hello guys, and welcome to part 6 in my advanced 2D platformer pathfinding series. In this video, we're going to create the player scene. We can go to Scene, New Scene, click on 2D Scene, right click the node, click on Change Type, and find the character body 2D, and click on Change. Rename the node to Player, right click the Player node, click on Add Shell node, define the collision shape 2D, and click on Create. Click on Shape here, and click on New Rectangular Shape. Then right click the player node again, click on that shell node and find the sprite 2D in here and click on create. Next, press Ctrl S to save the scene. So go into the scenes folder, click on create folder and call this player and click on OK. Rename the guy to C# standard and click on save. Next, right click on the player folder here, click on create new folder and type in GFX. Gonna open this in the file manager. You can use whatever graphics you want for this guy, but I made my little Godot dude here. And if you click on the GFX folder, we can now see him right here, stretched out nice and fine. Drag the graphics file into the sprite 2D here, and we can now see him up here. We can move the sprite above the collision shape, so the collision shape is easier to see. And we can roughly make this the size of the player, like so. Also click on the sprite 2D here and go to texture and set filter here to be nearest. And then we will have a nice and crisp guy, like so. Press Ctrl S to save the file. Now we're going to update our tilemap pathfind script. So we can open this guy up. We are first going to write two helper methods just underneath the build graph method. The first method is called getPointInfo@position, and it's going to take in the vector2 position. And the first thing we do in here is that we create a new point info point, and we give it a negative number of -10,000 for the point ID, so we have another point ID than what the A star is producing. And we pass in the position here as well. Then we're going to mark that this is a position point. We're going to get the position as a tile position here. Then we're going to check if a tile is found below, and we're now going to add a lot of checks so we can set the different booleans we have for the point info. So in here, we check if there is a tile to the left. If so, we're going to flag that as a left wall. If there's a tile to the right, we're going to flag that as a right wall. We're going to check if a tile doesn't exist one tile below to the left. And if so, we're going to know that this is a left edge. And the same thing here, if a tile doesn't exist one tile below to the right, then it's going to be a right edge. So basically, we're just checking the walls to the left and the walls to the right. We're checking if there's not a tile down to the left, then we know that this is going to be a left edge. And the same thing to the right here. Then next, we're going to have a method to reverse a stack. And the method we have is called reverse path stack, because we're going to use the stack for all the points that we're going to traverse through. So just to give you a recap of how a stack works. So if we add a couple of papers to the stack of papers, now we have 5 papers. And when you want to take something out of the stack, you will first take the top item in the stack, like so. And then you can take the second, and so forth. Now the method here, reverse stack, is simply going to do the following. It's going to take the top item and place it as the first item in a new stack. And it's going to continue like this until the first stack is empty. And then it's done. So you can see that the item switched order. So instead of going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with the one at the bottom, you now have the first item at the top of the stack. And we're going to need this function now, as we are implementing the getPlatform to the path method. So first, we're going to create a stack here and call this path stack. Then we're going to find the path between the start and the end position inside of the A star 2D graph. So we're going to use the method getIdPath here, and we pass in the closest point to the start position and the closest point to the end position. Then the first check we want to do is to see if the path contains any points. And if it doesn't, we're going to return the empty path stack here. Next, we are going to get the point information for the start point and the end point here. And we're then going to get the number of points that exist in the path. We're then going to loop through all the points in the path. And in here, we are going to get the current point in the ID path. So we need to write a helper method quickly here, called getInfoPoint by point ID. And we can add it just underneath this guy. It's a simple method here. What we do here is that we find and return the first point in the point info list with the given point ID. And then we are simply going to push this to the stack. Then we reverse the path stack, so the first node is going to be on top. We're going to come to these two later, but we are first going to implement the bare minimum. And we have an error up here. And that is because we need to return the new info point here. So press Ctrl S to save the file. We can now go to the Godot editor, go to the player scene. We're going to right click on the player and click on attach script and save this as player.ces. So click on create. And then here we're going to reuse some of the code we get for free. So at the top, we're going to add a few more variables. We are going to need our tilemap Pathfind node. And for this guy, we can click on quick fix and use system collections.generic in here. So the stack of point infos is going to be the path here. And we just create a new list of that. We're going to have the point info target, which is the target that we are walking towards. And we're going to have the point info with the previous target. Then here we're going to have a jump distance height threshold as well. And we will get to these guys soon. First of all, we need to add a redder method in here because we need to get hold of the tilemap Pathfind node. And this is going to find the parent main and then look for the tilemap Pathfind node. So we need to go here to our main scene. We can right click and click on instantiate child scene and add the player. So now in the script here on the player, it's going to look for the main node and then going to find the tilemap Pathfind node. So we can work on that guy. Now below the redder method, we are going to add the method go to next point in path. First of all, if there are no points in the path, we're going to set the previous target and the target to null, and we're going to return out of the method. Otherwise, we're going to set the previous target to what the current target is, and we're going to set the target to the next item in the stack. And then we can add a method to do the pathfinding. We're going to call our method getPlatform2dPath. We're going to pass in the position, which is our starting position, and then we're going to pass in the mouse position, which is our destination. And once we have the path here, we're going to run the method go to next point in path. Now we're going to override the process function. And here we're going to check if the player is on the ground and if the left mouse button was just clicked. And if so, we're going to do the pathfinding. Then here inside of the physics process, we're going to update a few things here. And the first thing we're going to add is a vector2 for the direction. We can delete the jump code because the character is automatically going to jump by himself. And we're going to check if we have a target. And if the target is to the right of the current position, and we add a -5 here to have some extra leeway. If so, we're going to set the direction.x to be 1f here. Otherwise, if the target is to the left of the current position, we're going to set the direction.x to be -1f. And we can delete this guy down here. Otherwise, if we have reached the destination, we're checking if we're on the floor. Then we go to the next point in the path. And then we check if it's time to jump. So let's start implementing this guy. So just underneath the physics process, we're going to add the jump method. And we're going to call this by reference so we can update the values in here. The first thing we are checking in the jump method is to see if the previous target is null, or that the target is null, or if the target is a position point. And we can do like this for the moment. So I'm going to show you what this guy will fix. And if that is the case, we're going to return out of the method here. Then we're going to check here if the current target is above the next target and the next target is a full tile. If so, there's no need to jump. Let's say this is the previous target and this is the next target we are going towards. Then we know that this target is above the full tile. Then there is no reason for us to just jump up and then fall down. We can just simply go over the edge and fall down directly. Next, we're going to create two helper methods. And this is to make the code more readable. So above the jump method, we're going to add the jump right edge to left edge method. So here, if the previous tile was a right edge and the target tile is a left edge. So let's say we have this right edge here and we have the target edge over here, which is a left edge. Then we know that the previous target here and the Y position is below the left edge here. And we know that the X position is less than the target position. Then we can perform the jump here. So we return true. Otherwise, we return false. And in the same way, we are going to check if we can jump from a left edge to right edge. We have the previous target, the left edge here, and the target, which is the right edge here. Then we check if the previous position of the Y is below the target, and that is correct. And then we check if the previous X position here is greater than the target position here. And that is true, because this guy is to the right. And then we know we can perform the jump. So we return true here, otherwise we return false. So our next if statement is going to be the following guy. So if the previous target position .y is below the target position y, then we can take this position here, for example. This y position is greater than this position, and then we can jump. Or if it's a jump between a right edge to a left edge, or a left edge to a right edge, then we can set the y velocity to the jump velocity, which means we're going to jump up. So we can save the file now, and let's go to the Godot editor. And we need to re-add the player in here again, because the script is missing. Now we need to save this scene first, so we will have the script into the main scene. We can right click on this guy, instantiate shell scene, and add the player. And let's move the player to somewhere in the scene. We can put him up here, and click on play. We have all tons of errors here. And the problem we have is that the action left mouse button doesn't exist. So we're going to go to project settings, input map, and add the left mouse button action. And click on add, then click on plus, click on the mouse buttons, and select the left mouse button, and click on OK, and click on close. And let's run this guy again. So if I click somewhere now, we can see he's jumping there. But if I click somewhere here in the middle, it's just going to go to the closest point he can find. So if I click up here on the black point, you can see he's jumping. And he's jumping really high. He has the same jump height for every jump he's doing. But at least he can follow the points. Now we want to be able to click here and make the character go and stay at the position we click. So we can open up the script. Then go to the tile map Pathfind. And the first modification we're going to do is to add the endpoint here to the end of the path. And we're going to add an if statement here underneath the current point. And that is if there's only one point in the path, then we can skip the point and just use the endpoint instead, right here. Go to the Godot editor and click on play. And we click down here. And he's walking there. And do some weird magic here. And as you can see, he's jumping at the end here, like so. So let's close this guy down and fix the jump. So go to the player.cs file. And you remember this guy that I commented out. If you now bring this guy in, like so, and run again. We have now eliminated the bug that he's jumping at the end. So let's go to the code again, to the tile map Pathfind, and underneath the num points in path, we're now going to add a check to see if it's the first point in the A star path, and we make sure that there are at least 2 points in the path, and that's because we are taking the index I plus 1, otherwise we would crash because we go out of bounds. Here we're going to get the next point in the path, which is the second path point, and we check here if the start point is closer to the second path point than the current point. And if that is the case, we're going to add the start point to the path. Then we know we can skip adding the current point because the start point was closer. And if we run this guy again, this is going to eliminate a few cases where the character is going to another point first. But this is not enough in itself. We can bring up the code again. We also need to check the last point in the path. I is going to be the last point here. So num points in path minus 1. And we also make sure that there are at least 2 points in the path. Then we get the penultimate point in the A star path here. So it's going to be I, which is the last point, minus 1. Then we check here if the end point is closer than the last point in the A star path. And if that is so, we can just skip adding the last point in the path stack. Otherwise, if the last point is closer, we can add the current point to the path stack and break out of the loop. Okay, so let's press Ctrl S to save the file. And let's run this guy again. So if I click now, he's going to be obedient and go to the point where we are clicking. And he's not going to do some weird extra magic around the points. He's going to take the closest path at all times. And as you can see, he's jumping really high between the nodes. So let's fix that as well. We can open up the player script. And here at the top, just underneath the jump velocity, we can add 2 new variables. One for the small jump velocity and one for a tiny jump velocity. So what we can do now is just go down to the jump method. And here, where we are setting the jump velocity, we're going to get the height distance between the target point position and the previous point position. And here we're going to update the code a bit. And we're going to check if the height distance is less or equal than 1, then we are going to use a tiny jump velocity. If it's equal to 2, then we're going to use the small jump velocity. So we can save this guy, Control S, and let's go to the Godot engine and click on play. So let's click up here so we can see the jumps. He is doing better jumps between all the positions here. Smaller jumps and then a larger jump. Like so. Alright. Now we have one more thing to address. And you can see if I go here and I click down here, he's doing a jump here to reach this place. And we want to eliminate that. So we can go back to the script. And then in our jump method, we're going to add the following check. We're going to see if the previous target is below the current target position, and that the distance from the position to the target is less than the jump distance height threshold. If so, we're just going to return out of the method. So let's press Ctrl S to save the file. And let's run this guy again. And if I click down here, it's just smoothly going to fall off the edge. Alright guys, in the next part, which is the final one, we're going to add the skeleton and add the Pathfinding script to him as well, so he will follow the player around on the map. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and see you in the final part of this tutorial series. Bye for now.